World Trade Center, Bush, Clinton, Silverstein, Rockefeller, Bilderberg connection. Plans to build the WTC were initiated and chaired by David Rockefeller, a banker, Bilderberg Group member and globalist, who had the original idea of building the center, with strong backing from the then New York governor, his brother Nelson Rockefeller. Larry Silverstein purchased the entire WTC complex just 6 months prior to the 9/11 attacks. That was the first time in its 33-year history the complex had ever changed ownership. Silverstein changed the company responsible for the security of the complex. The new company he hired was Securitcom, now Stratesec. George W. Bush's brother, Marvin Bush, was on its board of directors. Their cousin, Wirt Walker III, was its CEO. According to public records, not only did Securitcom provide electronic security for the World Trade Center, it also covered Dulles International Airport and United Airlines, two key players in the attacks. Silverstein, who made a down payment of $124 million on this $3.2 billion complex, promptly insured it for $7 billion, specifically covering terrorist attacks. Following the attacks, Silverstein filed 2 insurance claims for the maximum amount of the policy, $7 billion, based on the 2, in Silverstein's view, separate attacks. The insurance company, Swiss Re, paid Mr. Silverstein. The World Trade Towers were not the desirable real estate we are led to believe. The towers required more than $1 billion in renovations and improvements, most of which related to removal and replacement of building materials declared to be health hazards in the years since the towers were built, such as the fireproof asbestos that coated the structure's steel. On several occasions the Port Authority attempted to get permits to demolish the building for liability reasons, but was turned down due to the known asbestos problem. Further, the only reason the building was still standing until 9/11 because it was too costly to disassemble the Twin Towers floor by floor, since the Port Authority was prohibited legally from demolishing the buildings. The projected cost to disassemble the towers, $15 billion. How could Silverstein Group have been ignorant of this? How convenient that a supposedly unexpected terrorist attack demolished the buildings completely. WTC Building 7 was a part of the WTC complex, and covered under the same insurance policy. This 47-story steel frame structure, which was not struck by an aircraft, mysteriously collapsed 8 hours later that same day into its own footprint at nearly freefall speed, exactly in the manner of the Twin Towers. How could this have happened? Mr. Silverstein gave the world the answer when he slipped up during a PBS television interview a year later, on 9/11/2002. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander, telling me that they were not sure they were gonna be able to contain the fire, and I said, "We've had such terrible loss of life, maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it." And they made that decision to pull, and we watched the building collapse. Pull is used as industry jargon for demolition. Regardless, Silverstein did not say pull them, pull the firefighters. He said, pull it, as if he was referring to the building while additionally stating then we watched the building collapse. One thing is for sure, the decision to pull WTC 7 would have benefited many people. Especially because it has been reported that thousands of sensitive files relating to some of the biggest financial scams in history, including Enron and WorldCom, were stored in the offices of some of the building's tenants. Some of the building's tenants were the U.S. Secret Service, NSA, CIA, IRS, BATF, SEC, NAIC Securities and Salomon Smith Barney. The SEC has not quantified the number of active cases in which substantial files were destroyed by the collapse of WTC-7. Reuters published reports estimating them at 3,000 to 4,000. They include the agency's major inquiry into the manner in which investment banks divvied up shares of initial public offerings during the high-tech boom. Ongoing investigations at the New York SEC have been dramatically affected because so much of their work is paper-intensive. Inside WTC-7 was the U.S. Secret Service's largest field office with more than 200 employees. All the evidence that was stored at 7 World Trade, in all our cases, went down with the building, according to a U.S. Secret Service special agent. Interestingly, FEMA had arrived and was on scene the night before. Released, September 2000, Project for a New American Century, a neoconservative think tank released a report called Rebuilding America's Defenses, where it states the process of transformation is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis and the nations will accept the New World Order. David Rockefeller, September 1994, Bilderberg Group founding member, a group, their own documents show is pushing for a world government, integrating the United States with Mexico, Canada and population reduction. Even if you do not believe that 9/11 was a conspiracy as the overwhelming evidence supporting this shows, regardless, you have to at least understand that 9/11 was then allowed to happen by our government given the countless prior intelligence. Some of that intelligence includes: during Bill Clinton's term as president, the Sudanese government actually had Osama bin Laden and wanted to turn him over to our government. Instead, our government responded by firing a missile at the Sudanese. 2001 memo to Rice warned of Qaeda and offered plan. MI6 warned the American intelligence services about a plot to hijack aircraft and crash them into buildings 2 years before the September 11th attacks. U.S. intelligence overheard al-Qaeda operatives discussing a major pending terrorist attack in the weeks prior to September 11th and had agents inside the terror group. FBI failed to follow up leads on al-Qaeda terrorism centers on the bureaus, contemptuously brushing aside warnings from French intelligence a few days before 9/11. Britain warned U.S. to expect September 11th al-Qaeda hijackings. The Federal Aviation Administration admitted it had decided not to order a security alert at the nation's airports despite being warned a week before September 11th. Egyptian president says he warned the United States that something would happen 12 days before the September 11th terror attacks. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee said that the September 11th hijackers could have been stopped had U.S. officials acted on intelligence information available before the terrorist attacks. Given these examples of prior warning and the countless others, this would mean that for some reason, our government simply allowed 9/11 to happen. However, the government, the media and self-proclaimed debunkers would like you to believe this was all somehow just some sort of chance coincidence.